Good day. Welcome to the Rockwardness Podcast, the show where we interview incredible artists about when and how and why they started making music, and they play us one of the first songs they ever wrote. I'm your host, Rose Sean, and my co-hosts are the one and only, two and only, do people say that? Terrence LeClaire and Tony Tancredi. You know how we like to say everyone starts somewhere? Well, today's guest started much later than most of the folks we've interviewed, but honestly, her story is so aspirational and inspirational to me, and I really think you're going to agree. After a long and successful career as a film producer of some titles you have definitely heard of and probably seen, she decided to become a songwriter, and then did it without ever having written a song before. She's written a ton of songs for Sync with some high-profile placements, but most recently she's become TikTok famous for her sweet and catchy love song to her stoner daughter, Hi Gummy Girl, and her omnichord covers of pop songs. We're talking about Blond in Car, also known as Robin Shore, the groovy aunt of dream pop. We talk about her decision to write country songs, the inspiration for her viral hit, and why we have her to thank for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Stick around to hear about the crisis of Mojo that led to a major life change and why aging is a blessing, not a curse. From the W Hotel in Hollywood, here's our very fancy high-class episode with Blond in Car.
So lovely. My God. All the SM7's beautiful.
I know.
Four of them.
We're a house of SM7s.
Are they all matte? Are they four matching ones?
They are indeed, yes.
I think they're set, right?
Yeah. The serial
this
numbers are
was
one
our,
after another.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And they all live at separate homes.
They
We're
do.
like adopted kittens.
They are.
Or pups.
This is a litter of kittens that
I
I feel like I'm
Adopted.
transported to Nashville. That's when I met you guys.
Yeah, that's right. I
The
know.
last night
yeah.
on this day.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
my
right.
gosh.
On
The
12
tattoo.
12.
Oh, we
This
got to...
tattoo is totally doing its job. Every time I every time I see it, it just reminds me of like how happy my life is. And I'm so
Tell us
grateful.
about the tattoo. It says 12-12.
We
Yeah.
got to take a picture, Rose.
12-12? Are we being recorded? Should I try and talk in?
I don't know if we're recording or
Okay.
not.
Yeah, the 12-12, well, it was significant because it was two things. It was my daughter's 21st birthday, and we weren't together, but it was also the last day of my very first tour, and it was in Nashville, which is a place I used to spend a lot of time, so I knew a lot of people there. And I've never had a tattoo. I used to be a never tattooer kind of person. I just thought I never would do that, but I wanted to because the tour was so special to me. And this tattoo reminds me of that day where I was so happy because of my daughter's birthday and because of the last day of this beautiful tour. And whenever I feel blue, I thought I could look at the tattoo and remember how happy I was on that day. But I haven't been blue usually, but it just reminds me.
Yeah,
It just-
well, that's great. We're happy to
I
hear
haven't
that.
needed to pull it out of the dryer, to use it for the emergency purpose. But
Well,
it's
the good news is you'll have it for the rest of your life. So if that ever does arise, it will still be there.
I feel so bitchin' with it because, I'm so much older than everybody else I do music with or that I even talk to anymore, except for my mother. And I always felt that the tattoos were for the younger people and that I shouldn't kind of try and do that stuff. But now, this little, peeks out of it's on my inside of my wrist and it peeks out from my sleeve and it's like, hi, I'm cool too.
It looks
Yeah,
so good
so
on you.
subversive.
And that
Well,
was a
I
very
mean-
special day because
It
me
was.
and Lauren got tattooed
And
as
everyone
well.
got numbers, which was so cool.
We all got numbers. Yep.
What number did you get, Tony?
Ella Voss.
I got on my arm 6 out of 7 because I'm the 6th child out of 7.
Oh, that's right. That's
Which was
right.
awesome because you'd been you'd had that in your mind as something you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And Lauren got 13 and I guess it's her lucky number. I'm forgetting.
And her birthday.
And her birthday.
And, just a little backstory. We were all there.
I love that. Yeah.
We recorded 5 episodes in Nashville because Tony went, hey, the Ella Voss tour is finishing up in Nashville. And I was on the East Coast with my folks. And Terrence was like, I might have some miles. What the hell? So we all came to Nashville. I met up with you and Lauren and Tony at the tattoo parlor. You were
Yep.
all just walking out with your shiny new tattoos. And you were just glowing with elation over your tattoo, and then I went and picked up Terrence at the airport, and then we came back to the Hutton and saw you and Ella Voss perform.
Absolutely slay. That was a great
so
show.
good.
And
But
I
you
mean-
guys didn't decide to just jump in and get a tattoo at that moment. In
Well,
time.
we didn't have
You
time.
should
It was
have. You should have.
post-tattoo.
Yeah.
We really didn't have time. I had
The
first of all, you guys
tattooing
were
had
already
happened
done.
by the
Yeah.
time
You guys were
I was
already
picked
done,
up.
and then I couldn't just leave Terrence at the airport.
I mean, you could have.
I could
I
have.
know,
Would have
right?
been
I'm glad you
a
did.
Fairly good excuse.
There was live
I
music.
had
at
to
the
have a
airport.
tattoo just now. Yeah. get here however you do.
Yeah.
I mean, there was live music at the airport, so he would have been entertained.
That's the big thing about
true.
Nashville. And,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a perfect segue because when I first started writing, I started writing country.
That's right.
And I thought at that time, when I had this revelation that I wanted to be a songwriter, I thought that the only people that didn't write their own songs were country artists. I don't know why I didn't really know, but it didn't occur to me that there were people that write for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like an indie music fan, so like no one's writing songs for Nirvana.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, I will say, I think with pop, that is a marketing thing. They don't really
They don't want you to
want
know.
people to think.
Yeah.
Or that's kind of changing now. Like there's, I think, more,
Transparency.
more transparency around like the songwriter side of it. But yeah, I think generally speaking, they want the audience to feel like the songs they're listening to are actually in the voice of the artist. So I feel like they kind of try to keep that a little.
Yeah, I
murky.
I certainly fell for all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess because in Nashville, there's that tradition of songwriters. And I had gone to the Bluebird Cafe one time when I traveled there. And so I knew about songwriters. So yeah, I used to go there all the time, and I used to get so emotional seeing those people playing in the airport. Everyone has a big romance about the carpet at is it BNA? Yeah, BNA is the name of that.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
proud of
yeah.
you. It is.
Yeah, I
That's
used to
right.
go there a lot because in the beginning, when I first started writing and I was writing country, the big rules were, at that time, it was you're not a songwriter until you've written 100 songs. So write 100 songs, find the best co-writers you can because everything's about co-writing. Learn to play guitar well enough to play out, meaning not that you're trying to be a country star, but because you meet people at those clubs and things like that, and come to Nashville as much as possible. So I used to go to Nashville as much as I could. And my daughter would go to summer camp in the summer, and I would go there for the whole summer, which was lovely. I mean, I was always there in July.
I bet.
But it was awesome because I would just write and write and write. It was good.
That's so cool.
That didn't go on that long, though, but I did go enough to make really dear friends in Nashville and have a lot of fun there, although super glad I don't have to live there.
Yeah, well, Nashville in July is probably nasty. Nastville.
And it's just too red for me, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm spoiled by being an LA girl, and I'm pretty hardcore blue, so.
Yeah, truly.
Robin, we haven't introduced.
my God,
my
I didn't
God,
say.
it's
Blonde
Robin.
and Car.
Robin, Blond and Car.
Is here at the W.
I know this is very glamorous. I really, I think of Rockwardness as, did I pronounce that nicely?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Rockwardness.
Oh, that was perfect.
As, kind of edgy, and this is so posh, so I feel very glamorous today.
The
We'll
interview
clean up
will be
nice.
Rockward. Yeah, the
Yeah,
interview
don't
will
worry.
be very
We're
Rockward.
plenty.
Don't
There's
worry.
going to be plenty of
Yeah.
awkwardness, but
Yeah,
now
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you were writing songs in Nashville, but it's just like pull it back a little bit. So you kind of have an interesting story for our format in the sense that like you didn't start writing until you were an adult and had like a full career in another field. So it's a little bit different question. What's your sort of earliest experience with music, or your like relationship with music as a younger person, as a teen, let's say?
Well, I've always been the hugest music fan, and I was a DJ in college.
Oh, what?
And yeah, I worked at all the stations in San Francisco, which is why it's going to be fun because we're going to go to a show there. And I'm tempted to visit all my old radio stations I worked at. I worked at all the college stations and I had a lot of commercial stations as well. I did everything from engineering, top 40, Casey Kasem, which used to be printed on vinyl. You would actually
Oh my
get like
gosh.
10 albums, and you would
get Casey's Top 40 on vinyl?
Whoa.
Every week?
Every week they pressed it into vinyl. There were that many radio stations that played that.
That is insane.
And I mean,
Wow.
it would come in like a box set. It was like 10 discs, and you would play both sides of it. I am not kidding you.
Mind
Do
blowing.
those still
I know.
exist?
It,
They
it
must.
sounds like a dinosaur or something,
No,
right?
I-
At the time, it felt like a dinosaur. At the time, it felt like, is this absolutely the most thrifty, economical way to
Imagine
disseminate this show?
Imagine the shipping cost of like a stack of vinyl records. Oh
It's
my
like
god!
thousands
Well, it's
of
almost
dollars.
like
Every
it's
week.
almost like shipping film canisters around, really,
Yeah.
Right,
and which
yeah.
is something distributors used to do. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
used to really distribute things. But yeah, so I always loved music. I have an older sister, and she always had the cool records, and I worshipped music so much that to think about making it was like a thing. I come from a pretty intellectual family. My family's all professors, and to go into the arts at all was not a thing that we would entertain. And it's funny because I grew up in Los Angeles, and a lot of the kids I knew, their parents were in entertainment, and that was them. We were like a UCLA family, and I had like one of my best friends. Her brother wanted to be a film director. We used to go to all the art house movies, and he would sit 2 seats away from us so that we wouldn't talk and disturb his movie, his deep cinematic experience.
One of those.
And I was like,
okay.
yeah, and I was like, that was him. Like, it never occurred to me in a million years I'd ever work in that field. But I loved music so much, and it was always my passion. And I played classical piano, and I loved that. And I had a pretty strict teacher, and we did recitals, and I sang in chorus all the way through UC Berkeley, and loved that. We got to perform in I went to UC Berkeley, and we got to perform at the Paramount Theater in Oakland.
Oh, sweet.
And that was really amazing. We were right behind the timpani, and I got to watch the percussionists do all their things. It was really cool. So yeah, but the idea of ever making music, I never learned guitar. I never learned how to do any of those pop kinds of things. I always played classical, and even working at radio stations felt to me like an incredibly frivolous thing to do. So when I finished school and I started working in film production, because I was already sort of doing that kind of thing, I started working on music videos, and that was a really difficult decision for me because it was so artsy and left of what I was supposed to be doing. But I kind of followed that path and I went to film school at UCLA, and then I made a movie, and then I started climbing the ladder in film to be a producer. And I did that my whole adult life, and I did it hardcore. I worked my butt off. I read, 15 scripts a week. I like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all of that. Like it's a full immersion. And when I talk about it now, like it was such a grind, I've had friends who knew me when say, come on, Robin, you loved it at the time. Like, it was thrilling. The idea at that time that I was paid for my opinion and my, it was incredible. Like, and it was glamorous. Like, all the executives, my very first job was working as an development executive for Winona Ryder, who was huge at the time.
Yeah.
That was a very glamorous job, and I got it because I was probably kind of like thrift shop-ish. But it was a disastrous job because she would never call me. But I just remember when I got the job, I had been brought into a meeting because I knew this one project really well. My boss hadn't read any of the scripts, and I would try and brief him, and he's like, "I'll just bring you to the meeting." I'm like, "Yes."
So
I
went to
the meeting, and it was like all these like cool people talking about how to make this script better, and I thought that's the coolest thing I ever did, and I wanted to do that. So I did that for a lot of years, and I thought it was fun, but it was brutal, and I probably never really fit in. And after doing it, I climbed the ladder. I ran some companies. I worked at Lionsgate for a long time. I worked at Disney for a long time. Then I got my dream job, which was working as head of production for this one very cool company called River Road. And we had made Brokeback Mountain, we made Into the Wild, and we did the movie Food Inc., for which I won 2 Emmys. And I thought it was the coolest job because my boss was so cool. He was a billionaire, so he had all the money in the world. And we were doing both development and production. So we were working on everything from books to remakes to even this documentary to scripts all the way through filming, financing, production. And we were trying to do only like outstanding movies. So like, it was a prestigious and powerful company, and we were treated like royalty by all the agencies, which was amazing. It's nice to, be treated well by them. But I couldn't get yeses from my boss, and even when he said yes to things, he would change his mind. So then I thought it was my time to start on my own. So I raised money and had my own company, and I did that for a few years, and then it all collapsed, and I just had this whole crisis of Mojo where I just thought this was never my true love, and I never knew what that was, and I had some passion for music, but I don't know what that is, and I had no idea what to do. And my daughter was in school, and she was reading The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, which is a life-changing book, and because my daughter would sort of skim through and not really retain anything, we were reading it out loud to each other, alternating chapters, and it's a magnificent book. It's like a piece of poetry. Every line is kind of, it transforms you. And I would finish with her, and I'd go in the other room and just sob because I felt, the whole moral of the story with The Alchemist You have to find your personal legend. And I think personal legend is a capital P and a capital L. And I think there's even an E at the end of legend. Like it's the thing. And if you don't find your personal legend, which is your purpose in this universe, you go to your death a coward. And I thought, I'm going to my death a coward. I've never known what I'm for. And I'm sort of a B+ at film. And I don't want to do it anymore, and I've never known what I want to do. And I started meditating, and I didn't know what to do. And finally, the only thing that came out of it was that I just wanted to learn guitar. I just thought, I just want to learn how to play guitar. I never got to. All my friends played guitar. I want to bang out, a Beatles song on guitar. Yeah. And my husband taught me 3 chords, and I started taking classes at McCabe's, which is a record,
an excellent,
a music store
excellent music store.
That's been here forever.
Legendary.
Yeah, classic LA music store. And I just started hearing songs, and I couldn't sleep, and I was hearing them all the time, and I'm like, what's going on? This is profound. And then I was driving on Olympic listening to country radio, and I had this light bulb moment where I thought, oh my God, these people don't write their own songs. I could write songs for country artists. And I came home and I said, I know what I'm doing with the rest of my life. And I quit film the next day.
Oh my goodness.
I shut my office. I quit the whole thing. And I remember when I was calling my mother to tell her this life-changing news, I thought, well, first of all, you don't know if you're going to be any good at this. And second of all, are you sure you're going to love this as much as you think you are? And I'm like, yeah, fuck that. And I just called her and said, I know what I'm doing the rest of my life. And and here we are 7 years later. And that little path, it just kind of like took its own path. And it's funny because my friend said to me, God, everything you ever got in film was because you just like grinded it out. And I did. I worked my butt off. It's an expensive medium, so there's a reason why it's a grind. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. But agents are mean. I was too weird for it. It's much better if you're like a sorority girl or something. I was like always like dressed weird and was too alternative.
Or you have to have some sort of like personal brand development or something.
I probably had like the smart cool girl thing, but writers liked me. Power people didn't like that.
Right.
I mean, agents, I never could relate to them all that well because I'm not that money driven. But anyway, somehow, like in film, it was always such a grind and it was so tough and kind of soul crushing. And music, which is not an easy field to be in, has just had this beautiful flow. And every time the door kind of opens in the right way that it should at a particular time. And so, here I am 7 years later, and my whole path, which started with I need to learn how to write songs in country, and you're not a writer until you've written 100 songs. Well, about song 45, this friend of mine asked me about doing a song for a trailer, and that didn't end up working out, but it made me pay attention to the idea of making songs for film, TV series, commercials, trailers, all of that. And I didn't have to move to Nashville for that, and I could write in all kinds of genres, and that was so fun because at the time, and maybe still, country's so bro country, and the idea, like, even though I was only on song 45, I'd kind of go, like, how do I see this path working? Like, I'm a Jewish girl from LA. I can't write about hunting and fishing, and you're only writing for men. And I had this realization too, that not only are 95% of the successful artists men, but it's 95% of the writers too. I mean, they're writing with their male friends, and it's tough. So before I even had to reckon with that, I started doing music for sync, and that went really well, really quickly. And not because of my relationships with film people, which I thought would be a help to me, but it wasn't at all. It was only because I don't know. It just went well.
It's that interesting thing where sometimes the universe just gives you the green light.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain, but sometimes sometimes you just get in the like right energetic flow at the right place at the right time, or you are in the right place inside yourself or whatever. And it's really cool to hear that because, I mean, it's scary to make change of any kind, really. And honestly, at any point in your life, and super after maybe even 30, and you made like a big dramatic change, and at a point where you were like very established in a career. And I mean,
well, the thing is, film was so brutal, and I'm used to things being hard, and I'm used to working hard, and I love to. So the only thing that's hard sometimes is I'm always having to learn new things, and I'm like, sometimes I sort of feel like, damn, like. I just learned 7 things. I mean, I just learned social media. I learned.
Well, you're killing it at that.
Well, thank you. I mean,
Oh yeah.
well, thank you. No, I mean, I keep learning these new things, and now this touring thing, with all of the gear you need and how to do that properly, and even who books tours and how that works and what you should be paid and what the contracts look like and all of that. So, I feel like there probably aren't that many more stages of this that I need to learn, but I'm sure there are. But it's fun to do that. And as far as like, so the leaving something that I was somewhat proficient at and having to be bad at everything again was, for some reason, that's a thing. I like having a steep learning curve in life. I always did. When I worked in film, I always changed jobs because the first year was always super interesting and stimulating, and I'd learn so much. And then the second year, we'd sort of settle into something. And so, which wasn't a great way to do it. It's much better if you go to a company and stay. However, that just wasn't my path. And so I think I like that, but I don't know if everybody does. I do. I like to feel like things are hard for me.
Well, you like a challenge.
Yeah,
you like to be challenged. You obviously like to learn new things. I mean, that makes sense to me.
I mean, the fact that I'm doing these shows now,
I know,
that I have no business doing. I mean, seriously.
No, hold on, no business.
Well, I mean, honey, Lauren, when I went on tour with Ella
those are your
Voss,
first shows.
Those were the first shows I ever did.
Which I was surprised by.
2 open mics where I did one song that I bombed. Like I had never performed in front of anyone practically ever, like 0.
Yeah.
And I'm not like one of those girls that sang the national anthem at her high school. None of it. Like none of it.
Yeah.
So it's funny to remember that show in Minneapolis was the very first time I really ever did that.
Yeah.
And
First Ave, shout out First Ave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was performing part of the dream as well as writing the songs?
You mean the dream that I had once I decided I wanted to write songs?
Yeah.
Because, all of the dreams that I'm getting to live out right now are dreams I never let myself have.
Wow.
So when I think about my dream now is to tour with a band and have a big, beautiful sound and play the fucking Hollywood Bowl. Like
Hell
I would
yeah.
love, because I think Blond and Carr, like what I love, what I'm trying to create with it is a really, really beautiful, almost like so euphoric that you can barely stand it. That's my dream, is that it would sound like that. And so the idea of being able to have a big, beautiful sound and lights and a venue that could accommodate that is a very thrilling dream to me that I hope I'll get to experience. I mean, I'm madly in love with songwriting. It's the thing that I love the most of all of it. And I think I always, always did. But I never even dreamed of doing any of these. These were things, I had such love of musicians and singers that like the idea that I cover Karen Carpenter, I mean, I still feel like someone should like
That's a good cover.
Like, am I going to go to jail?
I mean, it's just like, how dare you? The idea of cover, and I did this mashup song called Superstar, Superstar, which is a mashup of Karen Carpenter and Beach House, like the 2 goddess women of the planet, and like, how dare you? So, but this is also one of the great things about being so old is that I would never have done any of these things when I was younger. I was just far too, just intimidated by just the majesty of what music is. And I still, I'm doing these 2 shows coming up right now for this artist named CMAT, and I've known her music, but in the last couple of days I have felt I am allowed to do the deep dive, and I've been doing nothing but listening to her. I was up all night the other night listening to her songs. She is an astonishing songwriter and artist, and I mean the fact that she's a fan of my music and wants me to do these shows with her, I can't even really fathom that. I mean, I know my music is good and I really love it and I like it and I love it. But like the idea that I would be that lucky that she would like it, hear it and like it and invite me to do this.
Yeah, and reach out.
Well, I mean, right, because a lot of people are making good music, but like the fact that she heard it, like, that
contacted
it came,
you.
Yeah.
Like that's
I mean,
so
that's
dope.
like very magical and special. And
but that's how it happened with Lauren and with Quarters of Change, and I just opened for them.
El Rey, that was
at
awesome.
The El Rey, and these guys are they're like their collective age is like 30. Like they're 4 boys. They're 4 boys from New York that are all like 20.
Yeah.
And they're so cute and they're so good. I mean, they're like full on awesome, the future of rock kind of amazing band.
Yeah.
Like they're super talented and it's straight up rock. Like he's a killer drummer.
So
they do
cool.
guitar solos. And like, so their music is so different from mine, which is synth pop. It's very hooky and very, girly. And the fact that they liked Blond and Car and asked me to open for them at their show is like,
That's so
really,
cool.
like, seriously, like the mere fact that I'm writing songs all day, every day in amazing studios where people have beautiful synthesizers, and the fact that I'm sitting here with these gorgeous four things and all you people in this music. I mean, like, honestly, if you told me, this is going to weird you out because it is weird, but like if you told me this is all like my dying dream in the last 30 seconds before I draw my last breath, and it was like this dream of what life,
so cinematic.
like what a dream life could have been, I would believe you, because it's that surreal and miraculous and
I love
unbelievable to me.
It's
the things I get to do.
It's very believable to me and to us, because, like, I mean, what I most prominently saw is somebody living their dream, which is what every human kind of wants to see. And so the fact that you're doing it and also putting yourself out there doing it acts as like a beacon for people to just hook onto, being like, oh my God, let's do that.
Yeah.
So I love to
That's a really
hear
sweet
about,
thing to say.
Well,
Thank
it's
you.
true. And I'd love to hear about your journey, like putting yourself out there, because I think that's a lot of people, like Rose started mentioning, like people will write songs, but then they won't see the light of day because they'll be hiding.
Hard
Oh
drive.
God, I would, and that would have been me any other time until now. I'm out of time. I'm going to die. You know, it's really amazing because everybody I know, like God forbid, unless somebody has a terrible health, bad luck, I'm going to be dead long before you guys. I am fighting the clock. And I guess, and I don't mean to be morbid about it. I mean it, that it's kicked my little butt.
Yeah.
Like, I can't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I cannot give a fuck.
No more time
I
for
think
that.
that is actually the beauty of getting older is you've kind of like run out of fucks to give. Because exactly. Like a younger version of you would have talked yourself out of it.
I was thinking about this today too, because, so many girls are Blond and Car fans, and a lot of them are like in that horrible 27, 28 zone, and they're just tortured about turning 30. And to me, 30 is like the new 15. I mean, I think 30 is your
sweet summer child.
you sweet summer child. So, but yet I think that pressure is far greater than even my feeling that I will die before everyone else. And, they're told such awful things all the time. And I think I would have struggled with that. I did struggle with it terribly. And one thing that's really awesome about being old is it's no longer about being beautiful. I mean, you don't want to be like so unbeautiful that no one wants to look at you. And people like that I wear cute clothes even though I'm old.
Oh, you always look so fashionable.
I mean,
Thank
this
you.
dress you're
Always.
wearing right now
Yes.
is adorable.
Yes.
Thank you. It's Japanese fabric.
And the matching pup.
I know, and your pup is
Well,
so
thank you.
Milo's
No,
here.
I've always loved clothes, and I think I'm presentable and all that. But you there's so much pressure. Like when you're young, you're trying to be sexy, beautiful, and that's so much a part of why you're going to rise above everyone else. Maybe even if your songwriting is exceptional, I think your physical package there's so much pressure on that.
Yeah.
And
100%.
to be skinny. And it's interesting too, because when I worked in film, one of the interesting fun parts of it is when we would do casting, and particularly if we were casting something where it wasn't only going to be about stars, where there was enough of a lead that it wouldn't have been a packaging part of it. You would be actually reading people, and all the young actors would come in. And let me just say, it was fascinating because, Jared Leto level beautiful, soulful eyes, they are a dime a dozen.
Yes.
Every guy would come in and they'd have these soulful eyes, and you'd go, wow, you look like a poet. You look like a poet. You look like a poet. They would be handsome. They'd be fit. They'd be super cool. But, every once in a while, someone would come in and in a Marlon Brando-esque way would say, can I have a chair? Like they would know what they needed and what they wanted from that moment of portraying this temporary character for that day of auditioning. And there would be something about that person that seemed like they knew who they were and what they were there to express. And it was always pretty transcendent when that happened. There was a confidence about that. So there's a way that if you're young and you're still under that beauty pressure, that you could be like that. But I certainly wasn't.
It's very
all the ways I
inhibiting.
am now about, and now that I do a lot of social media, and it's done a lot for me, and it's why these artists have asked me to do shows with them, is that they found me that way. Thank heaven. I love you, TikTok. I love you, Instagram. Take my privacy. Have it. You can have.
Take my data.
Take my social security number. No, so I'm. In fact, somebody called me something recently, which I thought was really funny and good, which was they called me a niche internet micro celebrity. I like that all three of the adjectives are sort of like puny, but it still has the word celebrity in it. So I'm a niche.
I'll take it.
I'm a niche internet micro celebrity. So you would
amazing.
think that having some kind of attention like that on you, and I do get millions and millions of streams like all the time. It's really incredible. People recognize me and stuff now. I guess those million streams are actually sort of real. But you would think that it would make you more vain or more hung up on, and I know that some big stars get very, very careful still about how they look, but it's out of my control. I look terrible in so much of this. You lose control over it. So it makes you less vain. I mean, the idea of being hung up about, does my chin look weird in a video I did?
Sure.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, all the time.
That's more relatable.
It's
like
beyond,
100%.
and it doesn't matter. I don't have to try to be, like a beautiful 25-year-old girl. Thank God. I couldn't have done it. I could not have done it. It's just amazing.
As a younger woman, I think that I think especially the age group you're talking about, like not quite 30, it's like there's this weird sense of like reaching an expiration date, but also sort of no matter what you're doing with your life, even if it's not entertainment, there's still this kind of like excessive weight placed on your objective attractiveness. I mean, what I think is so cool about your story is that the music business is sort of notoriously ageist, especially for women. I mean, I have female musician friends who were being told they were too old when they were 27.
I'm sure they were. I think that by the time you're past 25, you're starting to stress.
The fact that you even like made the choice to jump in at the point that you did is incredible. But the fact that like you've had these doors open for you, and that like, I think it's really cool the way you've harnessed social media too, because also like these much younger people are really like resonating with your work and love you. I mean, you're talking about these like 20-year-old guys that are like, play a show with us. That's so awesome. And I don't know, there's just a lot of levels of this that are really inspiring. And one of them is like, hey, maybe people aren't so bad, like that there is like space for someone who's not in the mold that everybody is telling you you're supposed to fit.
Sounds like fans are great, but labels suck. Basically.
Yeah, they're not going to. I mean, I've just assumed that I'm going to do everything outside the industry. I think that if I had started younger, it might have been a dream of mine to be like a top pop writer or something, or to like do that. But I still think I would have. I don't know if I would have known how to navigate it all that well. But the thing that has been such a surprise is that I was afraid to go on TikTok, and I was on Instagram, but doing poorly at it. And when I started posting, I play the omnichord because when I was going to do, which is for those who don't know about omnichord, it's like a half toy, half sort of, it's not a synth. My producer friend Gabe told me it's not a synth. It doesn't have oscillators, so it doesn't count as a synth.
I know.
But it's like it wants to be. I know. I hope to sound like as nerdy as him about it. I like using the word oscillators, but it's like a toy synth, and mine is from 1980. It was the last year they made them, and when I used to try to do open mics, I just couldn't. I'm a keyboard person, but I never knew how to improvise on keyboard, so I can't really accompany myself all that well on keyboard, and I just couldn't learn guitar. I tried so many times. I practiced so much, and I just couldn't get good at it. And so I thought, well, maybe this will be a fun instrument for me to sound a little more unique and have a bigger sound and do open mics with the omnichord. Well, I always thought it would be a cool idea to do omnichord covers on social media. I thought about YouTube at the time because I never grew up playing every Beatles song and learning those songs, and it's so fun to learn them. I mean, I worship these songs, and you learn so much from it. It's super interesting. So I started that, and I started posting these on TikTok with the help of a very talented marketing friend whose name is Andrew Perea. And I've been astonished by how nice the Blond in Car social media community is. And I mean, he even laughs. He's like, I think I've seen 10 mean comments the entire time, and I have millions and millions
That's
of comments.
very unusual.
I mean, it's 65% girls. A lot of them are young. They all want me to be their mom. They're like, I want to be you in 30 years. And it's like the highest praise when they say that to me.
Yeah.
When they say mother is mothering, I just like melt. And I don't know even I don't even know why it touches me so much, except for it just seems like such a loving thing to say. And I feel love for them. And I really want Blond and Carr universe on these socials to be all kindness, all sweet and joy, and it really has been that way. And one guy will say, "Hey, act your age," and everyone jumps on him and says, "Like, I'll take a bullet for this woman." And it's like, please,
so awesome.
Please don't.
I mean, they really they jump all over it, and it's
I
like
love that.
I'm tempted to take it down, but then I see how much they all. And like one thing that really touched me is I had one video that was popular. I forget what it was, and this one person, I think it was a girl, wrote, "I feel bad because I love this so much, but I have no one to show it to," and all these people jumped in and said, "Show it to me," and like. It turned into this whole little ecosystem within the ecosystem. That had like thousands of comments and people meeting
so
each other on that
That's amazing.
virtual universe. For some reason, I think the subset of people that are Blond and Carr fans and that go to Runyon Canyon, which is a hike here in LA, is like there's a big subset because every time I go to Runyon Canyon,
so funny.
girls come up to me and
Everywhere
say,
we were on the road, people literally, we were in Asheville, North Carolina, and someone was like, "Oh my God," knew who you were.
They did. It's really sweet.
It's really nice to hear this because, people really love to hate on social media, but I think this is such a great example of like when social media goes right.
It's been everything for me. It has been absolutely everything for me. And I'm a hardworking, industrious person, and I tried every single thing on the planet to get my music heard, and nothing was working. And I even got really good radio stations, which are hard to get on. I was on KCRW.
Yeah.
I was on KEXP, and nothing mattered. I could
TikTok,
not get anything to work.
TikTok is where the kids are.
TikTok clicked, and then and Instagram was lagging way behind, and then Instagram surpassed
That's amazing. It's so funny too. I mean, because you worked in Hollywood successfully so many years. I think it's very much happening that there is this sort of like transference of like Hollywood sort of petering out. And then social media, the communities and the connection and like all these worlds are kind of coming through. You're kind of at the forefront of both, like where you were just making these successful films and now you're successfully enterprising on social media. You know what I mean?
Well, thank you. I do think the fact that, but marketing has never been my strong suit. In film, it wasn't either, although you had to think about the audience. But one thing that really has mattered is when you realize, and a lot of my friends in music keep promoting and promoting and promoting. And so when their song gets 50,000 streams, they make a post about it. And really, I was doing that. It doesn't really do anything for anyone. All it does is tell your music friends what's going on, and you already are talking to your music friends. So when I realized that TikTok is exactly what you're saying, it's instead of looking at networks, they used to watch Friends on NBC.
Mm-hmm.
Now everybody is watching TikTok, and it's an entertainment channel. So if you're on there, the way it's going to work for you is if you were doing something entertaining, and you have to. Put on a show. Put on a show. And if that's, give fashion advice, give makeup advice, talk about your groovy life if you're an influencer kind of glamorous person, if you have a cute dog, whatever it is. But I mean, and the goal is to figure out some way of being entertaining that then comes back to your music, which is why it was so awesome that everyone liked these Omnichord covers by Kooky Me, this person that's old but young. And and something about, and my clothes and my kitchen and the ironing board and the whole thing.
Yeah, it's vibey. I love your house, by the way.
Yeah,
Thank
and I
you.
think like the hidden ingredient is authenticity, because like you're authentically sharing your songs in your dream, and I think there's no replacement for that. I think that really kind of like hits a chord with people.
Right, like
an omnichord, if you will.
But yeah, being like authentically kooky you, I think, yeah.
Well, authenticity is one of the most powerful words you can ever try to live by. And again, like I'm incredibly not empathetic, but sympathetic to anyone who can't do that. Because I think in film, I was faking it the entire time, kind of. You know, I was working on a lot of movies that I wasn't the audience for at all. And you have to do that because you're not working to make movies for yourself. You're working to make movies for a big audience. But I had no business making action movies. I worked at companies where we were working on action movies. I don't see them. They don't mean anything to me. I would try to learn them. I try to learn horror. I would watch them. I would learn it. But I'm not like I don't love it the way I love Beach House.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so,
Yeah.
you know, there's something about doing the thing, you know, and that's one of those things also that people ask me for advice about. And I do think that even though not, you know, it's hard to make it in the arts. It's hard to make a living in the arts, in an artsy job. But you're going to be the best at the thing you love the most, whatever that is. You are going to be the best at that. And that is a thing that should weigh in the equation. I'm not saying it's the only thing to think about. If you just love poetry, it's really hard to make a living as a poet. I don't know how you do that. That's one of the only ones I would say.
I know
a
some
professor.
people who do.
You're
yeah.
a professor as well. That's how you make a
That's
living
what
as
you
a
have to
poet.
do.
Today it's kind of funny because it's funny you mentioned that. I know some poets, and the way a lot of them like help get successful is social media. And it's just like, it really is. Now you can be successful at dreams because of that authenticity in a way that you couldn't before, because you have a way of connecting that with other people.
Or making it relevant. So when you made this decision to sort of like live your authentic life and started writing, do you have a song from that time that you want to share with us?
Well, I have a really funny song that was it's very easy to remember the very first song I wrote. It's called Why Oh Why. And I wrote it right after I had this revelation that I wanted to write country songs. And I really knew nothing. Like it's like a pure song written by a person who knows nothing. I didn't know what a bridge was. I knew what a verse and a chorus was, but something like song structure, it barely has a chorus. It really barely does. So, and what's funny too is that one of the things that I knew about was this guy, I'm going to forget his name, a really cool guy that would do sort of demos for country people in LA that didn't know anything. And I got to go to his studio, and in a day we made a demo of it. And it was super interesting because he played pedal steel.
Cool.
And that was his kind of claim to fame, is he had done that on like tours with Bruce Springsteen and amazing people. And he has this cool little studio in Venice. And I got to go there for the day, and he would record all the instruments. I'd never I knew nothing. I went from zero to that. I knew nothing about that. And so the song that I brought to play you is that demo version of Why Oh Why. And I sang on it, and it was a really terrible experience because he's like going, you might want to use your head voice. And I didn't even know what he was talking about. I felt like I sounded really shitty. I'm trying way too hard. It actually sounds sort of okay. But when I listen to that song, it really takes me back to, you know, like, God, I knew nothing. I didn't know anything. And it's funny too, because I was telling somebody I was writing with the other day that story about how I was driving on Olympic and decided I should be a country songwriter, and called my mother. And I realized that at the time, on top of going, A, am I going to be any good at this? B, are you sure you're going to love this as much as you think you do? But I hadn't written one song. I had not written one song at that point. Wow. So this was the first song I wrote.
When you told me have a reason, I had to stop believing you were my only one. Now it's time to quit my crying and the thought that I can try and make you find me in your heart again and make you change your mind. Why, oh why do I close my eyes and wander back in time? We used to be so easy, all the ways you tried to please me, used to read me to sleep at night like a lullaby. Now's the time to quit the this dreaming and deny these hopeful feelings. But I know once I quit reaching out, that'll be goodbye. Why, oh why do I close my eyes and dream about our good times? I dream about them, baby, I know every little thing about you and every little moment we shared. Is that just something you regret? And you knew every little thing about me and every little moment we shared. That might not easy to forget. I can dance and tell a story, and I know there's someone for me down the line. Now that we're apart, and I won't know all about you. If I see you on the street in town, I'll just walk on by. Why, oh why do I close my eyes and dream about your smile? Why, oh why can't you remember what we had? 'Cause I can't, so I can't let you go. When you told me you were leaving and you didn't have a reason, I had to stop believing.
Woo! Man.
Why oh why?
Why, oh, why?
Why, oh,
And you
why?
wanna know
Sometimes
what-
you have to try.
What's funny is that the first song I wrote was called YOY, which I used to abbreviate as YOY. And then the next song I wrote was OOO. I know.
No, but that's great. I mean, like
That was
look
so
at
true.
like the Beatles' early songs. They, you know, the very simple like "I want to hold your hand," and then look how, you know, over time their kind of complexity in their songwriting developed too. So it's like, well, as we like to say here, everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah.
And you don't, I mean, you know, not everybody's Mozart and writing symphonies at 3. I mean, some of us just, you know, have 4 chords in the truth, and that is a perfectly
But,
good place
you know,
to
it all
start.
comes down to the writing, and songwriting is just like the most it's just the most miraculous activity you could ever get to do. And the thing that makes me one of the happiest is when people write to me on these socials and they say, "You've inspired me to try and write a song." And I'm like,
Nice.
yes.
Yeah.
And
Sweet.
just don't tell yourself it has to be good. Just
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah. You know, the other songwriting guru that I love so much is, Jan Wilson, who's one of the
Yes.
best
Oh my
writers.
God, yes.
And he has a million genius inspiring quotes about it, but he says, you know, write the music you wish existed. And if you let that be your guide, then you're just going to go, what is the melody I think could be the very prettiest right here? What's the, like, that's just going to be your guide. And all you have to do is go like, what do I wish this sounded like? And then you just keep following that trail.
I love that so much. I saw you said that in another interview, and I think I wrote it down. I was
It's the-
like, write the music you wish existed. Yes.
That steers you every time you're like going, I wonder if this melody is too complicated. Then you just go, do I love it? And then you go, yeah, then I'll just keep going with it.
Right.
It's like every time you ask yourself what you second guess yourself, you can just remind yourself of that. Yeah. So that's YOY. That is, honestly, it took me some digging to find it.
Thank you for
bet.
doing
That
that.
was
you know,
buried
you might be a hard
few
drive or 2
computers
ago. Like,
That's right. It definitely
Well, we
was.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking for it. It's funny. I mean, I could have done my very first Blond and Car song, which was only from about 3 years ago. And that is but it's one of the most popular Blond and Car songs. And it's far less kind of like, you know, I was way more fully formed
well,
by the time
we
did
appreciate you going back to the really vulnerable
early
one, because
days,
that's really, I mean, that's really what we want to hear, because it's like, if you play us something that you're already super proud of, or that's like, you know, popular, then we don't get to see the growth. And it's really beautiful to see, like, and how quickly that happened for you. You just committed so fully.
I mean, the only thing you really can do is try to do the music that's the most you.
Yes.
And because that's the way it's going to be unique. And I don't know if that's a thing you can keep front of mind. You know, it's kind of a lofty way of thinking about things. But, you know, I think it's also somewhat helpful that I did work in film. And I mean, you know, Casablanca, widely considered to be maybe the greatest film ever made in Hollywood, was passed on by everybody. Like, everyone passed on that script. And I saw it happen so many times that a script that was universally adored and had a really fast path to getting made, the audience ended up going, nope. And then things that were impossible to make ended up really being meaningful to people. You know, I mean, it's one of the cool things about the arts is that, you know, doing an art that's a business and trying to anticipate what an audience is going to respond to, you know, there's no one. I mean, some people, I guess, have golden ears, you know, but nobody always knows.
But I mean, how often?
Just lucky.
How often are, like, in the studios, especially, like, how often are they wrong about a film that they think everyone is going to love? Or it just seems like pretty much every year there's like one movie that is just such a shock that everybody likes it because it's so different. And it's like, maybe people like variety, but for some reason that lesson never seems to really penetrate, like, the people who are making those decisions.
Yeah.
So they always act like it's such a, like, outlier or a fluke that, like, everybody loved Barbie, for example. It's like,
I love that no one thought Seinfeld was going to be popular.
I know. What?
I mean, like, Seinfeld, it's like only the funniest show, and it will always, like, it's just like not hard to go, that's really good.
one
Yeah,
of the most
exactly.
enduring syndicated shows probably ever. Yeah.
Don't you have a cool story about something that was going to get passed on that you helped greenlight?
This is going to make me sound old as the hills,
No,
but
it's a great story.
I did advocate for Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, when I was an assistant. And I worked at this company, the very first job I had in film, and that script came into our company, and everyone was like, I don't get it. And I'm like, I think it's hilarious. And it was really genius. In fact, you know, everyone who knows the series, not everyone knows the movie that started it all. And the movie
Love the
was
movie.
so funny. And Joss Whedon was on, you know, kind of like a second-tier television writer at the time, and he wrote this spec, and all the lingo that was in it.
It's like retro.
I know, and like, what's your sitch? I still say that. Like, what's your sitch? I thought it was so funny, but everyone thought it was lame, and so I said, I think we should submit. We had a deal at Fox at the time, and I said, I think we should submit it to Fox, and they ended up making the movie, which bombed, but then the series became.
But also the movie,
was
but
so
the movie,
classic.
cult classic.
Paul Rubens
with Pee Wee Herman. I was going to say,
Yes,
I love
and,
that you know that.
and Luke Perry.
Perry.
Oh my God, rest
And
both
Luke
their-
Perry,
rest
when
both
Luke
their
Perry
souls.
showed up with a soul patch, and we were like, who okayed this? And because my bosses didn't go to set, they found out when we were like 4 days in on production.
That's so
it was
funny.
too late. And also Donald Sutherland was doing this accent, and everyone was like, who approved the accent? And I'm like, don't you think it would have been good if we knew this the first day? And I was just a humble
They
assistant, so
they
I
should have
didn't
come to set.
I
That's
didn't,
so
I didn't even
funny.
mean that to be an impertinent question. I sort of felt like, oh, good idea. If we had known that the first day, we'd be able to do something about it if we chose to.
All the actors went rogue on that movie. They're all showing up, like trying different
but
accents.
Legitimately,
and hair
like
and-
legions of fans. Thank you for that.
It was awesome. And then Paul Rubens had that crazy dying scene where he
Oh my
like
God, I was
dies.
going to mention. Yeah, listeners, look up that scene.
And
we'll put it in
actually,
show notes.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes.
we are within viewing range of the bridge. There's a
Oh, the Vampire Bridge. Oh,
Yes, the Vampire Bridge is right there behind the observatory, which we can
Take a
see
photo.
from the window of the
The Shakespeare
our suite at
Bridge,
the W
right?
Hotel.
I
Or
love
like-
the Shakespeare Bridge.
yeah.
I cannot believe you guys are such Buffy heads. I'm very, very blown
Oh my
away by
God.
that.
We're,
Yes.
we're 90s kids, I
We're
guess.
90s. Well, I was going to say that was a seminal 90s film. And I have to say, I was pretty shocked when I heard they were making a TV series because that was kind of before that was the norm, was
I
to like
know.
recycle intellectual property
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
It was a crazy, bold move for them to do that because it was an odd concept and it was an unsuccessful film.
Exactly.
So the fact that they saw the potential, I mean, this woman, Gail Berman, who was the head of that company's TV department, was really smart to have that. I wasn't really, I actually left that company and came back later. So I was gone for when that all, all those deals got made. But it really was an uncanny thing that they resuscitated, and then it became such a huge franchise.
I mean, and like so
like
beloved.
a vampire.
So yeah, exactly. Well, so you have written a lot for Sync. What is your favorite experience with that? Like, what's your favorite song you wrote for Sync?
Wow, that's such a cool question. I loved doing it because it was so fun to write in pop and all different kinds. I mean, and I wrote with such cool people. I mean, I sort of curated it. I was always hunting for voices and producers and co-writers, and I would sort of produce all the sessions. I was always like organizing all of that, and I would write like twice a day and try to have this arsenal of all these cool songs. One that I have to mention is that I wrote this song called Look at Me, which I wrote with a producer named Jacob Federecci and a singer and writer named Callie J. Arnott. And Callie is now like the queen of sync practically. She's massive and she's so talented. She's kind of a rapper. She's a white girl, but she kind of does what she calls sassy talk. And we were in love with this, you know, I mean, it would be Charlie XCX now. It's kind of like this kind of like, because Charlie is a rapper. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been doing her songs and their raps. So we were kind of in love with that kind of like girl power, but that kind of sassy, like, you know, I'm the greatest thing ever kind of thing. So we did this song called Look at Me. It was actually 2 minutes and 6 seconds long. We didn't even do a second verse. I don't know why we didn't think we needed to. We were all somewhat new at this. But it just came out cool. And that song was the song that launched A Million Things. Like that song was in chases, love scenes, you know, girl power moments. We got Samsung launched a phone with it. And then United Healthcare took that song and said we want it exclusively, and they made an exclusive deal with us that they renewed 3 times. So for 4 years it was exclusively. And the song goes, wow, it's too late, the secret is out, but wow, And so what they did, United Healthcare, I'm telling you, destroyed it. They haven't renewed it, so we're no longer
you no longer
there.
have to pretend you like.
But actually, seriously, like everybody, like if you watched any show that older folks watch, like, you know, cable news. I mean, like my ex-husband's mom was like, "Oh, I know that song." Everyone knows it because the doctor would go, "Wow," and the patient goes, And then they had them mouthing the words.
Wow.
That is so cool.
Wow. And they did a million different versions of it. So that was the song that it continues to sync and sync. It's been on Lowe's and Bose headphones. We've
crazy.
licensed that song.
That is amazing.
So many times. And I still
awesome.
love it. It's just, there's something about it. It's just cool.
That's
It's just got a cool vibe. And what's really cool that I'm proud of too, is that a lot of the songs that I did with Callie J, we used to write every Friday and we have a lot of songs together and a lot of them did very, very well. And they use a lot of the lyrics. And, you know, when you're working in sync, particularly in ads, it's always kind of cool when they use your lyrics because mostly they want the instrumental. Mm-hmm. And they used a lot of our lyrics. We got Bumble. We had so many ads.
That's so
We've
cool.
had so many. And I was also very proud because a song that I really loved that I wrote became the promos for all of the American Horror Story this one season, not just domestically,
sweet.
but internationally.
Wait, which one?
Which song or which?
Which season of American Horror Story?
I forget which one. It was a couple of years ago, and
I'm just curious if it's the one you did the immersive
and I wonder
experience.
if this
did a couple
will.
of them, yeah.
Well, and I was proud of that because the song was called, and I came up with this tag. It was "Step into Darkness," and they used that as their promo for
that's
the whole.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I wrote that, and I was kind of like,
amazing.
"Do I get extra if I wrote the tagline
that was
on
like
the
their
poster?"
tag
You
phrase.
should, yeah.
And they took it for all U.S. and then they took it for all international,
That's
and I was
so
proud of that. It was a
awesome.
cool.
Nice.
And I particularly also I was proud that I wrote the tagline, and I was also proud because I always thought American Horror Story, as like disturbing as it is just unbelievably good marketing. Like it continues to shock every time you see a billboard. You're like, oh my god, they did it
It's
again.
interesting. It's got like
scary.
It's got a campiness kind of like Buffy a little bit, you know, a little bit.
Scares me way more than that.
It's a lot scarier.
It
but
reminds
it's got,
me
like,
of 9 Inch Nails. It's like, I mean, it's always so
Very creepy.
You know, fuck you like an animal, scary
Very.
level. Sorry, did I just transgress by swearing?
No.
No,
You can
no.
say fuck all you want. That's really
So
exciting.
rare.
So you have so much going on, but like you've released a ton of music in a short period of time. You're writing for Sync. You're about to do some cool out-of-town shows.
Yeah, I don't write for Sync very much anymore. I'm hoping that all those songs will continue to work.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying to get Sings for Blond and Car.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be one of the next things I work on. Because I think I have to write in that direction. I know why it's not very syncy, but I want it to be. I mean, it's so thrilling when you get to see a song that you wrote on a show. It's beautiful.
Well,
It's really
especially
fun.
like it would be really cool if it was like one of your like more personal songs too.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
God. I
Yeah.
think it would be such a dream. I would really love that.
Well, saying it out loud is the first step. Just put it out there in the universe. You never know who's listening.
I really would love it.
What new song do you want to leave us with?
Well, the thing that I am going to play now is probably my best known song. It's called My High Gummy Girl.
Yeah.
And it's a love song I wrote to my daughter who, she's not even a gummy girl, but she is a stoner daughter. I do have a stoner daughter. She's 21. She's an adult. And I love her to bits. I just love her to pieces. So it was Parents' Weekend at Boulder where she goes to school. And we were at the game for Parents' Weekend, the football game. And I said, so what'd you guys do last night? And she said, we saw Sinatra or what the fuck. And by that, she meant the symphony. And I wrote that down. I just said, I am writing that down. And then I wrote the rest of the song while I was sitting there at this football game that I wasn't interested in. I wrote
so
almost the whole
funny.
rest of it. And then
Wow,
I left.
seriously?
Yeah.
Oh my
I did.
gosh.
And I knew I was going to call it My High Gummy Girl. I just knew it. The thing that's funny about some of these songs is that sometimes they just really come out of you. And I just knew it. And I just, and I consider that like one of those portrait songs where I was just really drawing a portrait of this person I love. And I love to write those because I just adore little things about people, and it's easy. I don't let myself do it that often because it's an easy thing to do in a way. And maybe you have to push yourself harder, but I loved writing that. And when we put it up on TikTok, there was something about how much love I have for my daughter, and the fact that I love her so much, even though she's a stoner daughter, seemed to really be so kind that people were all like, they all want me to be their mom, and it just touches people, and it makes me so happy because it's so sincere, and it's how I feel about her. It's a fully produced song that I made, but now that the Omnichord songs have been so popular, I'm gonna release a bunch of Omnichord covers and Blond and Car covers. So redoing some of
sweet.
my own songs.
Oh, cool.
And so
Nice.
My High Gummy Girl is going to be the first one I do. That's the Blond and Car re-release, and every sound you hear on this, I hope to do many volumes of this record where it's all Omnichord songs, and it's so fun because I get to do covers. I mean, I want to do the Blond and Car songs because I want people to hear them, but I really can't wait to do all the covers. We just did one. Oh my God, I'm not even going to tell you what it is, but it's so beautiful. It is so beautiful. The first cover we did, but every sound you're going to hear on those records, and I'm hoping to do 10 volumes of them.
Nice.
Comes from the Omnichord. We've sampled the drums, so we've made more of a drum kit out of
Oh,
it.
cool.
It's all vocals and Omnichord. No other instruments are going to be
Sweet.
in evidence
I'm
on
so
those
excited
records.
to hear
Nice.
that.
And it's
Same.
very cool. And making the sounds varied and having lots of vocal layers is going to be really fun. It's going to be so fun. That's my project. My goal was to do it this summer, and I'm determined we're going to release Gummy Girl. I'm not sure when this podcast will be out, but we're going to release Gummy Girl at the end of August. So we're going to just make it right before the end of summer, and then start releasing them one a month until I have a new record next year, which I'm also almost done.
So
Ooh, that's so
exciting. Well, we
awesome.
can't wait to hear it.
Oh, you guys are so
and
sweet.
Yeah, let's break out the
Thank you.
Omnichord.
yeah.
She says we saw Sinatra or what the fuck. And by that she means the symphony. She's too high to wanna search for the perfect word. Dancing to Russian hip hop in the back. Wears a flea market pinky ring from Tiffany. It's too tight to get it off, but she's not concerned. And I think she's gonna be the kind of person that amazing things happen to. And I think she's gonna be the kind of person that amazing things happen to. She's my high gummy girl. person that knows how to be happier. And I think she's gonna be the kind of person that knows how to be happier. She's my high gummy girl, high gummy girl. 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 She knows how to be, knows how to be. Oh, she knows how to be, knows how to be. Use the word happier. Say the word happier. She's my She's my high gummy girl, high gummy girl. 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 She's my high gummy girl, high gummy
Robin, thank you so much.
That was
Blond and
beautiful.
Carr.
Thank you guys for having me. I've had such a lovely time with you, lovely humans.
Thank
Very
you for
honored to be
being
here.
here.
Thank you. That was the brand new all omnichord version of High Gummy Girl. It's going to be all omnichord all the time till that record comes out. She's got a cover of Keen's Somewhere Only We Know that just came out on October 23rd. You should definitely subscribe to Blond and Carr on Instagram and TikTok for weekly omnichord covers and a lot of other fun content and to keep up with future tour dates and releases. You should also subscribe to Awkwardness on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you kids listen. All links, as always, will be in our show notes just a click away. We have more episodes coming every Tuesday till the end of the year. See you next week. Hugs and kisses.